Okay, Baruch Hashem. This is part 2. I had to change location. Now you're in my office. It looks like a little bit like a dungeon, but this is where all the magic happens. So, all right. So where were we? In regards to sustenance, like I said, there's several different things that you can do in order to help that. But the most important thing with all of Judaism is to make sure that you know that it's coming from Hashem and not necessarily from our own actions. We could exert effort, we could try, we could do our best, but the Torah always comes before everything else. So much so that, for example, we have the 10 Commandments. The first 3 commandments are between us and Hashem. Believe in only one God, no idol worship, don't use Hashem's name in vain. The 4th commandment is Shabbat, observing and keeping the Shabbat. And the 5th commandment is respecting our parents. Now, even though we're obligated in the 10 commandments, so this is pretty much where it breaks off to the 613 commandments, like we talked about. If our parents tell us to violate the Shabbat, to go buy them a newspaper in a store, or to drive somewhere with them, or to eat something non-kosher with them, we're not allowed to listen to our parents. Our respect for our parents does not go above the Torah, meaning that's Hashem first, and then everyone else. So, the more we try to live that life, where Hashem becomes number one, the easier our life becomes. In the beginning it's difficult because your world will have to adjust. The people around you will have to adjust. Sometimes they'll disconnect from you. Sometimes they'll fight with you and argue with you and make fun of you even. And as you know, one of the things that I'm supposed to tell you and you'll actually hear again at the Beit Din, eventually when you do the conversion, they're going to tell you that really you should reconsider. Maybe you shouldn't convert. Why? Because we're a persecuted nation. Why would you want to join a nation that's been persecuted and abused and fought against and killed and destroyed? I mean, there's a term for it. We're the only nation that actually has a term for our persecution. Obviously other nations have been persecuted, whether it's the Indians versus the Hindus versus the Pakistanis, or it's the Shiites versus the Sunnis, or black people and white people, or whatever else other craziness that's happened throughout history in the world. The Jewish people are the only ones that actually have a name for it, clearly showing that we've been dealing with it since the beginning of time. It's actually the first chapter, first few verses of the book of Exodus discuss the birth of anti-Semitism. So there's been anti-Semitism for over 3,300 years. And now you good folks want to join that nation. So you have to realize that it's not logical to the rest of the world of why you would want to join a nation that everyone wants to kill, everyone hates, everyone this. It's not. So the rabbis are going to tell you, are you sure you really want to do this? Maybe you could go to heaven, a different heaven, but you can go to heaven being a Noahide, being a non-Jew that's righteous with Hashem. It's easier. And they're going to try to, in essence, not discourage you because they don't want you to do it, but discourage you in a sense that they're going to try to tell you have to really be clear and really be sure that you want to do this, because once you convert, there's no turning back. You can never unconvert. You can never become non-Jewish again. It's not like Christianity or Islam, where one day you could be Islam and the next day you could be Christian. Or one day you're Christian, the next day you're Catholic, or a different denomination, or something else. there's no undoing Judaism. Once you're Jewish, that's it, you're Jewish. Which means that even if, let's say, for example, a Jewish person that's born Jewish, or even converts to Judaism, but he makes one of the sins that the Torah says cuts him from the nation. Like, for example, someone that violates the Shabbat and doesn't do repentance, continues violating the Shabbat. The Torah says in the book of Exodus, the Parashat Ki Tisa, it says that person is cut off from the nation. He's no longer considered Jewish. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that he's now able to be a non-Jew and act like a non-Jew and eat whatever he wants and make more sins. No. What it means is that he has lost his benefit of being a Jew, where now he has no share of the world to come. And instead of share of the world to come, he has eternal punishment. So it's not that he has an option of becoming non-Jewish, and it's just okay for him to violate the Shabbat moving forward. It's never okay for a Jewish person to violate the Shabbat. So there's no undoing it. And people need to know that because, again, sometimes you'll have this. This unfortunately happens a lot, where someone would convert because of a relationship. Because let's say, for example, a Jewish person has a non-Jewish girlfriend. And she wants to convert because she wants to marry him, and she knows that his parents are not going to allow him to marry her unless she converts. So she's really converts to make him and his parents happy, but not really because she believes in the Torah. Now, first of all, we should know that that conversion, even though she could fool everyone, she can't fool God. So that conversion doesn't count. Second of all, the fact that she did it, she's making everyone around her, especially that poor husband of hers, sin. And it's a real big problem. So we can't have conversions where it's not a real conversion. The most important part of a conversion is your belief. But your belief is not like where, Christians say, no, I believe in God, I believe in God. Okay, well, what are you doing for God? Oh, I don't have to do anything. I just say I believe. That means nothing. Belief in Judaism means actions. What actions are you doing to show your belief? Are you praying every day? Are you learning Torah every day? Do you really believe that Hashem is in control, or are you working 25 hours a day because you don't believe that God has enough money to give you? So our belief is shown by our actions. If a guy says, no, I believe in the Torah, okay, so why are you eating pig every day? If you believed in the Torah says don't eat pig. The Torah says don't eat meat that's not kosher. The Torah says you're not allowed to eat shellfish. So if you believe in the Torah, why do you do that? So saying I believe means nothing. Actions mean something. So when you're going to convert Be'ezrat Hashem, you have to truly think about this before you do it now, and because once it's done, it's done. There's no, oh no, I didn't mean to. I didn't really mean it. So this is one of the things that, number one, I'm supposed to tell you. And number two, the rabbis are going to mention it again at the Bet Din. Now, before we get to what happens as far as the conversion process, why don't you guys give me some more questions?
I have a question. Well, I asked you this question a few days ago, and you answered it, but for the sake of everyone here, and maybe over this audio, remember what I told you about? I met a Jew.
You met a
conservative Jew.
Oh, yes.
And he invited me to the synagogue, things like that. And his advice to me was, don't go the Orthodox way because it might overwhelm you in the beginning. So start off slow and work your way up, so to speak.
Right.
So, what advice do you have on that? As far as since we're all converting here, there's so many ways, there's so many different types of Jewish communities out there.
Right.
Whether conservative, reform, messianic. Can you explain a little bit on that?
Sure.
Yeah.
So there's really only one type of Jews. There's not as many different sects and cultures, but there's only one type of Jew, or two types of Jews. Either they're observant or they're not observant. Either they follow the Torah or they don't follow the Torah. Now, if they follow the Torah, they can have different customs. There's the customs of the Sephardics, there's customs of the Ashkenazi, there's customs of the Yemenites, depending on where their heritage is from. But they're observant. Non-observant have different names. The customs don't matter. Non-observant means you're just making up your own Torah. Non-observant, you're just making up your own Torah and you're giving it a name. So there's one guy that doesn't do anything at all, and he calls himself secular. He's secular, he doesn't keep anything. In Hebrew it's called chiloni. Chiloni comes from the word chol, which means that he makes every day of the week the same. Because the 6 days of week are called Yomei Chol. Days of pretty much just regular days. Except the seventh day is Shabbat. Shabbat is holy. So they're making, a Chiloni means that he makes all 7 days the same thing. So that's someone that's secular. Then there's another person that he calls himself conservative. But he says, I'm a conservative Jew, but I don't follow half the Torah. I follow whatever I decide. I think that you're allowed to drive on Shabbat. Even though it says it the opposite in the Torah, I changed that rule. So, Shabbat we're allowed to drive. That's the conservative. Or, for example, being a homosexual, which is a clear abomination in the Torah, a clear violation in the Torah. There's no two ways around it. There's no hidden meaning. Hashem says specifically, someone that's homosexual and continues to be is considered an abomination. He's the same thing as someone as with an animal. Same thing. Bestiality and homosexuality in the Torah are the same thing. Even though to us, humans, it sounds, okay, homosexual is a problem, bestiality is worse. In Hashem's eyes, it's the same thing. So, the conservative say that homosexuality is not only okay, not only is it okay, but the head rabbi of the conservative movement in Jerusalem is openly gay. So that's another one. That's conservative. And then you have Reform. Reform are saying, listen, the entire oral Torah is not true. We reject it. On top of that, the written Torah, we're only going to keep whatever we feel like it. And on top of that, we want to give the same rights to our pets as we give humans. So they have something called Bar Mitzvah. What's a Bar Mitzvah? There's a Bar Mitzvah. A Bar Mitzvah is a celebration of the 13th birthday of a boy. That's when the boy officially becomes a man. He's obligated by all of the mitzvot. He's obligated by all of the 613 mitzvot. He has to follow them. He has to pray every day. He has to do tefillin. Before that, he's not obligated. Now, the Reform say that their dog, the dog, pet that you buy at a pet store, should also have a bar mitzvah. So there's a YouTube video, there's many YouTube videos, not one or two, there's many of them, where they put a dog and they put tefillin on him, which tefillin is a part of the Torah. It's the holiest thing on earth. You're putting it on an animal that licks itself 2 seconds later. So, now, you tell me. You don't have to be Jewish. You don't have to be a scholar. You don't have to be even special anything. Just someone with a little bit of fear of Hashem. A little bit of fear of Hashem. If Hashem said that homosexuality is the same thing as bestiality and it's considered an abomination, and he also said that obviously tefillin is a part of the Torah that has 1,000 laws. 1,000 laws just to make one tefillin. 1,000 laws. It's very hard to make tefillin. It takes a year. 1 year to make one pair of tefillin. It has a special scroll in it that's part of the Torah. And you're going to put it on a dog. Can I rely on anything else those people say?
No.
Even as human beings, I can't rely on them. And this is why the authentic part of Judaism, meaning Jews that follow the Torah, what sect they're in, whether Yemenites, Ashkenazi, Sephardic, doesn't matter. The culture is irrelevant. There's different cultures. There's Sephardic Jews, there's, whatever are the Jews. There's all types of Jews. But observant or non-observant, that's the only real types. What culture you feel you want to connect to is up to you. But being observant or not observant, that's a choice. So the ones that are saying that the Torah is real, like we're saying here, you know what they're also saying? They're saying that the Reform and Conservative, they're worse than Christianity. They're worse than Catholicism, and they're worse than Islam. Why? Because at least Christianity and Catholicism, they're saying, we have another book. It's not a true book, it's a fake book, but we want to go with that book. Islam does the same thing. They have a Quran, they say, we have another book that has different rules. At least they all agree that the Torah is real. They don't follow it, but they're not making fun of it. They're not making a mockery out of it. The conservative and the reform are making a complete mockery of the Torah. And this is why, if someone was being chased by somebody who wants to kill him, chas v'shalom. Chas v'shalom means God forbid, by the way. Someone's being chased, somebody wants to kill him, and he has 3 places to hide. He has a conservative synagogue, a church, and a mosque for Islam. The only place he's allowed to hide in is the mosque. Why the mosque? Because the conservative is an abomination to Hashem, which is obviously even worse when it's reform. It's an abomination to Hashem. Christianity and Catholicism is considered idol worship. Mosque, even though they're using the law in an inappropriate way, and they're making a lot of mistakes, and using Hashem's name in vain to kill people, it's not idol worship. So as crazy as that sounds, you're not even allowed to walk in to a conservative or a reform shul. Because it's not considered a real shul. It's not considered Judaism. It's considered a mockery of Judaism. So of course he's going to tell you, you should try that first to see if you can acclimate yourself. The reason why you're not allowed to is because it's very easy to justify bad behavior. Just like it's easy for a gambler to justify gambling after he won a big hand. He won a tournament, or he won a big jackpot. To tell people, gambling is good. Look at me, I won $1 million. Yeah, but what about the other 99.9% of people that lose their life gambling? So it's very easy to justify bad behavior. The second thing is, unfortunately, what ends up happening is we get used to bad behavior. So your kids are going to see that this synagogue, this conservative synagogue, allows you to drive on Shabbat. And one day you're going to say, no, listen, we're ready for second level. We're ready to become Orthodox. And Orthodox, we're not allowed to drive. Your kid's going to tell you, no, Daddy, I don't want to do Orthodox. I like driving on Shabbat. So what are you going to do then? You have a problem on your hand. So the whole concept of conservative and reform being a first step before we get to Orthodox is completely flawed. It's like a, there's many bad examples that you can give. One of them can be, say, listen, somebody that's atheist, doesn't believe in God at all, you tell them, listen, before you get to the truth, let's start off with, believing in an idol instead. Just take a statue from Chinatown, believe in that. At least it's not nothing. Obviously, that's wrong. So, it's either true or it's not true. It's either Torah is 100% or it's nothing. And we can't go 50-50 because the 50-50 is what gets us in trouble. So, one of the things that Baruch Hashem are working on right now, there's a group in Miami that I've been giving them shiurim over the last several months. They've actually been the most popular shiurim. They've been the most popular lectures that I've been giving, Baruch Hashem. And it's actually a group of Spanish Jews. From Ecuador, from Panama, from Cuba. Really special people. And one of them came to one of my lectures at my house, and then I told him, listen, why don't you arrange something by where you are? It's about an hour from my house. I'll go there, no problem. And we started having the shiurim and really connected to the people. They really love Hashem. And then after a while, I found out that they all go to a conservative shul. And all of them violate Shabbat. And all of them violate pretty much most of the Torah. Why? Because they're being taught this way. So now when I come there and I tell them the truth as it is, it's like a shock. But these righteous people, what do? They learn. They said, oh, this is what it says. You show me a source. You show me a verse. This is what it says. It's what God says. I'm going to do it. I'm not afraid. Just until now I didn't know. Because the conservative rabbi told me that I'm allowed to drive. So what's actually happening right now, Baruch Hashem? Right now, after months already of working with them and all of them doing tshuva, right now they're in the process of changing the entire shul from conservative to Orthodox. This is a huge milestone. Huge milestone, Baruch Hashem. And it shows you the power of Torah. It has nothing to do with me. I'm just a parrot. I say what Hashem says. Anyone that says it also. Unfortunately, there's not many people that say it. But the point here is that this is not just like opening a shul. Opening a shul, you make nothing into something. Alright, great. You made a piece of land and you put a building on it and now people are going to make it into a holy place. Great. This is different. This is turning tum'ah, which is impurity, into purity. This is turning the desecration of Hashem's name into Kiddush Hashem, into sanctification of Hashem's name. It's a huge milestone. Why? Because they finally learned the rules. And they realize, okay, this what we're doing is a problem. So now they asked me for a while, why don't you come give lectures at our shul? And I told them I can't even walk in there. I can't even walk in there. Once you convert it, I'll help you. I'll do whatever you need to do to help you change it into a kosher shul. And little by little, the rest of the people from the Keilah will adjust. But once it's official, I'll come there as often as you want. I'll give shiurims there and lectures, and we'll make a big show out of it, Be'ezrat Hashem. So, when it comes down to the Reform and Conservative, I can't embellish it enough to tell you to stay away from it as much as possible. So much so that if someone converted through a bet din of Conservative and Reform, it's considered nothing. Consider that they did nothing. Even though the conservative conversion process is the same. It's identical to the Orthodox process. They ask you questions, you answer the questions, you go to a mikveh, you get out of the mikveh, you're done. It's the same process. But on one end you had Orthodox rabbis, another end you had conservative rabbis. Why is the one by the conservative rabbis count as nothing, count as if you did nothing? Because they teach things that are against the Torah. And if you teach things that are against the Torah, you cannot be relied upon. And if you can't be relied upon, nothing that you do is relied upon. Even if what you're doing is right. Since the rest of your actions are wrong, we can't know what's right, what's wrong. We can't decipher it. So it's all gone. It's worthless. So that's why if someone converts conservative and they go to Israel, they want to move to Israel, over there they don't consider that person Jewish. That conservative conversion counts as nothing. They're considered 100% non-Jewish. Whereas if they go to a kosher bet din, an Orthodox bet din, they can use that anywhere in the world, Israel included. So, again, the most important thing is what Hashem thinks. Obviously, we already know what Hashem thinks. But even if we want to see what Hashem thinks in this world, you go to Israel and people are telling you, oh, listen, that whole thing that you did and all the mitzvot that you're doing don't count because your original rabbis fooled you into doing a conservative, conversion. It's terrible. And I have actually more than one person that went through a conservative conversion, and I was the one that had to break it to them that the conversion was unfortunately meaningless, and they have to do it all over again. And they confirmed, and obviously they saw that I was right, but the point is that it's a heartbreak. Because all this time you're thinking that you're Jewish, and then one day you wake up and you realize, no, I'm not Jewish at all. What am I doing all this for? And it could completely break the person down to completely leave everything. So, playing with those things is playing with atomic bomb, not just fire. Next question.
I have another question. In one of your lectures, you used to mention about they were not allowed to even come close to a... You specified more about the Buddha and all that, but like for example, some of our family members are still they still follow idolatry, and you did mention that we're not allowed to enter their homes when they're still when all those things are still there.
Okay, yes. So here's the thing. This is one of the biggest adjustments that a convert has to do. First of all, you're never, once you convert, once you're Jewish, you are never allowed to eat at a non-Jewish person's house. Unless that non-Jewish person's house only has rabbis in his house all the time, which is obviously never going to happen, and that could oversee the food, the cooking, and the ingredients and everything is 100% kosher. Because even if you bring kosher food to their house, you bring, let's say, kosher meat. I didn't know this when I first started doing tshuva, so I would bring kosher meat to a family member that's not Jewish, and I would just cook it on their pans or on their barbecue, thinking it's okay. It's kosher meat. I'm not eating pig. I'm eating chicken that's kosher that I paid extra money for. I paid 100% premium for this kosher chicken. And let me eat the chicken, for God's sakes. No, I want to eat the chicken. Not allowed. Why? Because it's not just about the meat itself, it's also about the utensils. And the utensils have to be kosher. Each utensil also, there's a part of it that actually takes on part of the taste and flavor, and even part of the ingredients of what it cooks. So, for example, if you cook non-kosher meat, eventually that grill or the plate or the pot and pan will actually have some of that in it.
So we have to get rid of all the...
No, so wait, hold on. So that's why you can't go there. No, hold on. That's why you can't go there and eat their food as long as they're not Jewish. You cannot eat with them ever in their home. If you want, huh?
Or visit them.
No, you can visit them. You can visit them. Sure, you can visit them with your family. You can't go to church though, ever. Never allowed to go to church. Never allowed to walk into a church.
We don't mean to be disrespectful. We're talking in the background. It's just a.
It's okay. No, it's okay. I understand. It's a conversation. Talk. Go ahead.
No. We're translating to my mom so she could. Yeah, she could
Sure.
Somebody speaks Hebrew.
So, go ahead. Come to my house. You're always welcome. Special people like you, I'll get a bigger house just for you. So, as far as going, never allowed to go to church. So if there's a wedding or there's some type of event at a church, you're never allowed to go in there. Their house, though, on the other hand, you're allowed to go to their house. Obviously, if they're worshiping idols openly, then there's a problem. If they're doing something like, something that's like an outright violation in the Torah, like for example, witchcraft, or they're praying to the Buddha in the middle of the house, or to a cross in the middle of the house, then there's a problem. But if they're just regular people and they're just not Jewish, then yeah, sure, you could visit them. It's not a problem. But in regards to, go ahead.
To what extension is it considered that we can visit? Because like even us before, we used to have in our home in Mexico, we used to have big statues, like child sign statues of the Virgin Mary, of Jesus, of JC, of so and so saint, and so and so. So our outside, like my in-laws, her in-laws, we used to have them. I mean, it's still we're in the border of Mexico, U.S. So Mexico, as you know, is very Catholic, Christian,
Right.
environment. So they have that. My mother-in-law, her in-laws as well. They got statues. They got picture of us there.
Inside the house?
Yeah, inside the house. Grandma as well. Even my mom's mom. My mom's dad as well. They go for the big picture of JC, even the cool JC with switching the eye.
They have altars. His parents, they have an altar and all that on there going on.
Do they worship it, or it's just a statue?
No, they pray to it and they worship it.
They pray to it. They got even rosaries around it, even with pictures of our
Yeah, it's a problem. It's a problem. I can't. It is a problem. Yes, it's a. If you put it this way, avoid it. Avoid it as much as you can. It's a problem. If it's just a picture, if it's a picture of JC, or a picture of whatever, and it's just a picture, but nobody worships the picture, then it's just a picture. It's meaningless. Just like, for example, a cross. If someone just wears a cross, if they're Jewish, obviously it's a problem. But if they're not Jewish, they wear a cross, it's whatever. It's just a jewelry piece. But once it gets to a point where they worship the cross, then it becomes an idol. Once they start worshiping what's in the picture, then it becomes an idol, and you have to stay away from idols. So they can come to your home as much as they want. Feed them as much kosher food as possible. But actually, I want to tell you guys something really that's a present for you that you'll be very glad to hear for a couple of reasons. Number one, money, but even more, to show you the significance of a convert. A lot of people think that converts are like second-rate citizens. They're not as good as natural-born Jews. I'm here to tell you that a convert can reach levels that are higher than a natural-born Jew. What's a proof? Now, every time a Jewish person, for example, if I buy, or better yet, my wife buys a new pot to make food in, she has to take the pot and take it to a mikveh to dip it, which means actually she sends me. So I go to the mikveh. I have to dip it. I do a blessing. I dip it, and I can use it from that point on to put kosher food in it. Not allowed to use it without putting it in the mikveh one time to make it kosher. even if it was brand new in a box. One time only. You don't have to do it more than once. Just one time. Once you've done it, it officially becomes kosher. You have to do this with forks. You have to do this with forks, with knives, with the pots and pans, with the cups, plates, and so on. But here's the thing.
Or we can get a really cool new set that's not, right?
No, even if it's brand new.
But yeah, but we can, I mean, the ones we already have, we have an excuse to get rid of it. I might have these really cool new ones, right? Right?
Well, actually, I'm gonna disappoint you a little bit. Disappoint you, but also give you a good, nice thing to know. A convert is so special in Hashem's eyes, so significant in Hashem's eyes, that He's mentioned the protection of a convert is mentioned in the Torah more than anything else. More than anything else, the special protection, the special privilege, and special deal that a convert has is mentioned more than anything else in the Torah. So much so that the day you convert, now you would think I have to take all my pots and pans and take them to the mikveh, right? To make them kosher. The day you convert, your holiness is so significant, it makes your entire house kosher without going to a mikveh.
Pots, pans, spoons, knives, everything?
Everything is kosher. Obviously, if you have non-kosher food in your house, you have to get rid of it well before. But I'm talking about the pots, pans, everything else. Do not, according to Rabbi Ovadia Yosef, he says, nothing, this is also sourced in the Gemara, in the Shulchan Aruch, and so on. The holiness of a convert is so significant that they literally kosher their house just by their presence. Now, of course, if you buy something new, then you have to take it to the mikveh. But everything that existed the day of your conversion, that you had, your possession in your house, it becomes kosher. So, Be'ezrat Hashem, one day you're all going to go to the mikveh to do a few things, and you'll see how much time it takes. You'll thank Hashem for this one.
So we don't have to buy wipes, new Tupperware, new dishes, new to nothing.
Well, actually, to give your wife a present back, because she gave me this question. You know, once you convert, you have to get married all over again. You have to do a chuppah. Yeah, you have to do a chuppah. Yeah, your previous marriage and previous lives, you start brand new. Each one of you becomes 0 years old. 0. You're babies. So you and your children become the same age. Your mom can never say, listen, you're so young, because she'll be the same age as you. Everybody becomes like they get a brand new soul. All converts get a brand new soul, meaning that all of your sins from previous life, all of the sins from this life, the day before your conversion, completely wiped out. You start with a baby account. Everything you did in your life before you converted is not connected to you anymore.
Rabbi,
Yes.
what about your tikkun? Does that get corrected?
Your tikkun, you have a completely different soul.
Okay.
Once you convert, you get a brand new soul on top of the part that you'll have that keeps you. But you start brand new, meaning that anything that you had to fix as a non-Jew is completely not related to you anymore. Obviously, obligations that you have, for example, if you have children, you still have to take care of them. If you have regular things to take care of, you still are responsible for it. If, let's say, your parents remain non-Jewish and you're Jewish, you still have to respect them, even though they're not Jewish, as long as they're not violating the Torah or telling you to violate the Torah. If they're violating the Torah openly, meaning that they're telling you, listen, do idol worship with me, you're not allowed to respect them for that. But obviously it's good to keep peace, to not have fights with them and things like that. But your actual soul becomes brand new. Any sins you've made, if someone stole, if someone anything that they did, doesn't count. You start a brand new account with Hashem, and all of you obviously will go to the mikveh. You get a brand new soul, and everything starts all over again. Now, your wife that you had before you got married is no longer considered your wife, and you have to get married again. So if you're already married, I don't think she'll let you survive the mikveh dipping.
If we have to keep the same wife, do we have to get you in-laws?
I think if we keep giving ourselves more choices, they'll just keep us in the mikveh permanently.
I know there's when the firstborn, I don't know if this consists of a female or male. I just read that regarding a male. You have to go give 5 silver shekels to the
Yes, bidyon ben.
So we would have to go. How is that when we make the conversion? I guess.
Or your child will. You have to do it on your child. Yes.
We're more interested, first of all, for ourselves as well, but for our kids. How is that? Or how does that transfer? Like, do they have to convert as well?
Yes, your children will have to convert as well. Yes, 100%. Your children will have to convert.
Even though they're under 13, and how is that process for the boys?
Their process is much easier, but also is tricky in a way. So they don't have the same questions. Like, for example, each one of the adults will be in front of the 3 judges, and they're going to ask you questions. They're going to see your knowledge, to see your belief.
I'm sorry to interrupt you really quick. Is it going to be, since we're converting, like, all of us at the same time as couples, do we stand together answering the questions, or does it separate?
No, it's going to, each person will be separate.
Okay.
There's no group conversion like you could answer this one, she could answer that one.
But marriage-wise,
yes, marriage, you'll have to convert separate, your wife will have to convert separate, but obviously, in essence, you'll be in the same room, but you will not be allowed to answer her questions, and she won't be allowed to answer your questions. So, once you convert, the adults have to answer questions. Once the rabbis see that you've answered the questions, it could be anywhere from 5 minutes or 10 minutes worth of questions to an hour. It depends on your knowledge, depends on how confident the Jewish judges, the Bet Din, is of your answers. If you're answering right away and they see that you're answering the correct, they'll probably only ask you a few minutes worth of questions and that's it, you're done. If it's obvious that you're doing it for the right reason, they'll pass you right away. If it's questionable because somebody has they're converting maybe for a boyfriend or a girlfriend, or maybe they don't really believe, and so on, they'll ask you much more questions and make it more difficult. So if they see that everything is clear, you answer the questions. As soon as you finish the questions, you go to the mikveh. The judges oversee the mikveh. Now for the women, they'll give them a sheet, like a bed sheet, that's going to float above the water, so they don't see her naked body through the water. They only see her face. And because they'll have to oversee her dipping into the water the first time to make sure that she dipped completely. Because once she dipped completely, when she comes out, she's Jewish. That's it, it's done. Now, the men have to do circumcision. If they haven't been circumcised, they have to do circumcision beforehand. So I spoke to the Bet Din last week, and what they recommend is that you do a circumcision. You have to, which I'll give you the details about that in a moment. And then you come back, you go back home. You have to heal, which takes about 3 to 4 weeks. And then you go back to the Bet Din to finish the conversion.
And if we are circumcised?
If you're already circumcised, then what they'll do is they'll actually prick, make a little bit of blood come out of it. It doesn't really hurt. It's like just to make some blood as in essence, a ceremony for what you already have. But to make it official that it's a kosher circumcision. If you're not circumcised, then you have to go through a circumcision.
And that also applies for all males or for boys as well, for the young boys?
Everyone.
If our children are already circumcised?
If the children are circumcised, same thing. They'll prick a little blood will come out, and that's it.
Where do they prick them?
Over there.
But I don't know exactly what. Down at the bottom or the top?
No, the top, where you would be circumcised.
Okay.
That area where you would be circumcised. They just prick to get some type of blood to come out. It's not like gushing blood and you need like special bandages. It's it's a small cut to that's in essence painless. It's like somebody's pinched you for a second and that's it. It goes away. But if you get circumcised, that's obviously a different process. That's you have to get circumcised. Once you finished, once you got out of the mikveh, you're done. Now, the children, on the other hand, maybe ask some basic questions, but the bigger part for them is that they go to the mikveh, they come out, they're Jewish. But they're Jewish with a condition. Once the boy turns 13 years old, or the girl turns 12 years old, so let's say, for example, when they were converted, they were 5 and 6. Once they turn maturity age, which is for a boy is 13 years old, and for a girl it's 12 years old, they have to go back to the Beit Din. And the Beit Din is going to ask them, do you want to stay Jewish, or do you want to go back to being not Jewish? Even if the answer is a joke, no, I don't want to be Jewish anymore, their conversion is canceled. So it can't even be a joke. And in order for them to actually convert, they have to go through a whole process, questions. They have to be convert like an adult. So this is where Jewish education becomes very, very, very critical in their life. If they're going to public school, they're always going to answer that question wrong. Because they don't want to be Jewish, because they're going to public school, and their friend Joey and Trevor and Stevie, they're not Jewish. They could go and hang out and play PlayStation on Shabbat. My mommy and daddy don't let me, so if I become not Jewish, then I can play PlayStation. They don't think like adults. They just think about PlayStation. So this is where Jewish education is very, very important. If you give your boy and girl Jewish education, you shouldn't have anything to worry about. If not, you should be worried every day. Now, to add one thing in regards to the whole process of conversion, is that it's a huge, huge milestone. It's a huge undertaking. It's really amazing that you would do it, but the most important thing is to do it right. So now, when you actually have a couple, a husband and a wife, are converting, the Beit Din is going to make sure to do it at the same day. So you can convert the same day, but you're also going to have your chuppah, your marriage, the same day. Ceremony of marriage the same day. And the actual Beit Din will do it over there. We'll do it on location. All they need is to get, one of the rabbis is going to be the one that does the formal ceremony. They'll have to have 10 a minyan of Jews, of kosher Jews that keep the Sabbath. And they go through a formal ceremony and you get married on the spot. Why? Because they know that you're both going to go back to the same house. And if you're not married, you're not allowed to touch each other. And that becomes a problem. So a couple that's already married or already together before they convert have to get married the same day. The only way around it is if they live in 2 different houses. They can never live in the same house without being married. So for example, if there's a married couple, and let's say for example, the husband is traveling at the day that his wife is converting, so he's converting another day. She converts, and let's say he converts the next day. He has to either marry her that day, or until he marries her, he has to live in a different house. So long story short, everyone gets married the same day because that's the most practical thing to do.
What's the process for the women, for the girls as well, for the conversion?
What's the process for?
For the women, for the girls as well, for the younger girls, for the conversion.
Much easier. There's no circumcision. There's no nothing like that. They just pretty much dip into the water. They may ask them a few small questions, basic knowledge, but probably much less than an adult, depending on the age. Obviously, if they're 5, 6 years old, they're not going to ask him anything. But if they're, an age where they have a little bit of common sense, 10 years old, they can ask him, do you know what Judaism is? Some basic things maybe. So it's good to give them some basic level education. But most likely, the children are going to go into the mikveh with the mother. The girls with the mother and the boys with the father.
Oh, okay.
The girls with the mother and the boy with the father. They dip at the same time.
So once
Yeah,
you convert,
Huh?
once the conversion happens and the marriage happens and all that, once you're in the chuppah, obviously the goy traditions is the rings, etc. All that stuff. Do we follow that?
There.
The same things as.
So there's certain things that we follow, not follow, that we created really. In order for when a Jewish man proposes or wants to take a wife to be his wants to take a woman to be his wife, in essence it's called ukanaota. He's buying her, not buying her because she's a slave, chas v'shalom. He's he's taking her from her parents, but he has to return something in return. So there has to be some type of exchange. So what's the exchange? It's a very, very ordinary, very, very, simple ring. Preferably like white gold or silver if you want. I mean, white gold is good, but with no diamonds whatsoever. Nothing. The simpler, the better. And that when he's going, the guys are.
Can they buy platinum?
Baruch Hashem, no.
Sure, it's fine, but it has to be a simple ring, no engravings and so on. The simpler the better. And during the marriage ceremony, they're going to ask you questions. You take it to, there's obviously they're going to ask it in not the same way like the non-Jewish are saying it. They ask you the questions. You have to sign a ketubah. The ketubah, you have to decide how much ahead of time. You have to decide how much you're going to give your wife if she divorces you because you violated the law. You violated the agreement. So, that prenuptial agreement is at the wedding. So someone can decide he wants to give his wife $500 or $5,000 or $5 million. There's the key is it's done actually before the wedding. At the day of the wedding it's done. That's the ketubah. There's several things that they'll go over with you that you both have to agree on. And then the last part is that you put the ring as part of the marriage ceremony, and then after that, as a memorial, the Jewish man steps on a glass cup, in memory of the destruction of the Holy Temple. Even though technically memory of the destruction of the Holy Temple is a sad thing, usually people party after it. They say, "Hey," and that's the sign for saying congrats. But that's what's become common. But nonetheless, the ceremony is very modest, very beautiful, very holy. They're going to hold most likely a big talit on top of you. That's like the canopy, but it's a talit. What's it called?
Like a prayer shawl.
Like a prayer shawl, but it's the talit. They're going to hold it. There's going to be probably four men holding a big talit on top of you while the rabbi is talking to both of you. The woman, every day, but obviously at the marriage ceremony, must be modest. I cannot emphasize enough how important modesty is for a woman. It's extremely important. I actually I wrote an article, brief article, about modesty about 2 weeks ago, which had some pictures of what's Jewish modesty. If you didn't get it, tell me and I'll send it to you. It has some pictures of what the law is to see.
Is modest regarding like what is being shown, or modest also includes not buying, like if they ask for a Chanel dress or Dolce Gabbana or anything like that?
No, you actually are allowed to buy them whatever they want as long as it's modest.
You're cutting off. The signal's going off.
As a matter of fact, that's part of the agreement. Part of the agreement of the ketubah when you get married is that you have to buy them clothes when they want clothes.
Now, is that agreement also for us as couples that we're converting, or just who are wanting to get married at that point?
Once you convert, your previous marriage doesn't count. Once you convert, you have to get married.
You're breaking up again.
You're going to get yourself in trouble through this conversion. I don't think you're going to make the mikveh ceremony if you keep going.
We have